Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light, or the call. Some of you will understand the significance of the call. Today's date is the 6th of October 2025, and it is precisely 9:11. Oh, 9:11 p.m. here.
It's
Yes, isn't it?
1:11 here. It's 1:11 here.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
It just goes to show how guided we are. And I have an amazing guest this evening, Siren Wind. I will read out her bio, but it's very significant that she's my first guest on these podcasts, which I haven't done for a while. I kind of paused them for a couple of years. But she is the first person I wanted to get to sit down and talk with. She's such a galactic energy. It's really off the scale. And I first met her in Florida at the Full Disclosure Now conference. And she really embodies a very powerful galactic energy and frequency. And I really felt that at the conference, which is one of the reasons I was so drawn to her. And we've become friends. And so here she is this evening, Siren Wind, weaves galactic frequencies, crystalline tones, geometrics, and light to cellularly upgrade, restore, and activate DNA, clearing, opening, unifying, and remembering our true nature as divine cosmic beings of light. Through her quantum frequency sessions, events, group sound activations, and services, Siren uses her voice and vessel as a precisely tuned instrument, a bridge, an anchor, a transmuter, receiver, and transmitter of off-planet high-frequency advanced technologies, weaving, building, bridging, and anchoring multidimensionality through light, sound, and frequency from within the infinity vortex of the heart. I want to say that I've never heard anything so true, and everything that I've just read, I felt when I met her. She's truly embodies the galactic frequencies of light, and holds them within her body very well. She collaborates with Gaia and the grid, working with new geometrics, holographics, and light structures that hold evolutionary patterns and codes for awakening consciousness and building our new Earth. Her books are available through Amazon on her author page, amazon.com/author/Siren Wind. Her website is innergalacticenergyhealing.com, and you can book sessions with her and activations. She also regularly attends events, and she's just written, and you can also connect with her on Facebook, facebook.com/innergalacticenergyhealing, and that's all the normal spelling. There's no funny spelling there. So that's Galactic Energy Healing. And she currently resides in America. So without any further ado, Siren, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. And it's an honor too, because I feel so parallelly when we met, an instant recognition and also the soul that you are. So I'm really honored to be here with you. And thank you for such a beautiful introduction and resonance with that. knowingness. I fully receive and appreciate that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I know that a lot of our audience will understand when I say that, because I'm sure that they experience it as well. I know they do. When I say that there's so many of us that are, it feels like a reunion of, like, I know I've known you before. You know, and so many of us have had that experience where we meet someone and we just know we know them. So I know that you're okay, let's do that at the end. But so one of my first questions is, because I've been hearing today a lot about, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's true or what's going on, but I've heard a lot about um some of the and actually that's completely wrong. I haven't heard a lot about it, but I've watched a couple of things today on the internet, mostly on TikTok, and I was seeing posts or hearing that the government in America has closed down. That's the first I've heard of it. So I wanted to ask you, because you're in America.
Uh, well, I think that's an interesting question. And I haven't, since I was a child, I haven't really watched TV. So like I just feel into what the energies are doing. And I never really thought it was like I know it's a thing that they're doing, it's a structure that exists. But I have felt like it's been falling apart and collapsed quite a long time ago. So if it officially closed down, I mean officially or unofficially or even temporarily, um, I mean, it's done that in the past, before during different events or upcoming events, and we all know, even if you're not paying attention to the TV or the energy, or you're paying attention to the energy, but not the TV or the other posts on social media, is that there's a lot of you know, uh, flux, if you will, about the three AI Atlas and the other spaceships that, of course, have been arriving. To what extent are we actually seeing that? But there's also the aspects of the structures that have been in place, right? The structures that have been in place for so long that really aren't correct have been crumbling apart. So, um, I do feel like that is the case entirely because there's been no ground for any of this to stand on for so long. And there's been this delay, this prolonged delay going on for, I mean, really the last few years, but especially the last few months, where there's this projection of what is still occurring, but it's not. There's space now, and the energy is supporting now the correct realignments and implementation. So that may be so that they are, but I mean, never, but especially more recently, didn't think there was any actual power occurring. It's just it's the behind the scenes transference of power into a different system while the quantum systems uh, implement. And when I say re-implement, implement finally to the extent that is correct in the transition that we're in, because we're in a huge transition right now, right? It's huge
Can I
what's
just, yeah,
unfolding.
can I just ask you about that? So we
Yeah.
were talking just now before we went before we were recording, and we were talking, and you were talking about recalibration. I understand some of that process because I'm in it myself. But for the audience, will you please explain, like, what is, because I know that's very much part of the energy at the moment, but like, will you explain in your words what is going on with that?
Yes. Well, it's on every layer multidimensionally, but being in this physical reality, what's happening individually and collectively is huge. And when I say individually, that's with even the blades of grass, the ethers, the energy is the fairies, the elemental kingdoms are recalibrating, upgrading, accelerating, and so are we. And so in these processes of purification waves, that are going on with the earth, individually, cellularly, with our organs, our tissues, our brain, and all of it. Everything is recalibrating to the extent, if we give it a nice simplified metaphor, what's happening is we're simultaneously remodeling, redecorating, demoing, building, and simultaneously accelerating, evolving, releasing, vacuuming, painting, getting new furniture while we're painting, right? It's all these things that are occurring simultaneously. And the recalibration is, while we're all doing that individually and collectively, our housekeeping and redecoration, releasing, taking things to donation, dissolving, we're also resetting. We're resetting, we're clearing our thoughts, our patterns, our energies, we're accelerating simultaneous to all of these other system collapse, restructure, reset. Look at made up politics that are resetting, recalibrating. All of these things are occurring, behind the scenes, but within our inner scenes and our inner universes, that's happening. So what's happening with recalibration is huge, because we're also refining. Well, the hope is we're refining, we're clearing, we're setting, resetting, boundaries, perceptions, changing, opening, expanding, clearing perceptions, shifting perceptions as we're, upgrading our systems, our telomeres, our uh, understandings of everything, because what's been projected isn't right. It's a false reality. So as these collapses are happening, what's been energetically being felt, to whatever extent people are tuned in, right? Or able to feel that, they know things are changing. They know they're massively changing, or things are being ripped apart, say in different experiences, people's lives, jobs, relationships, places they've lived. And we must let go and surrender, so that we can be free and be pure. So whatever is in our experience that needs that recalibration will come front and center through experiences of reflection, what we're magnetizing, who we are, how we are, what's being shown to us, and we must address it. There's no more like putting that dust bunny under the rug and saying we'll vacuum it later. So the recalibration is constant, because our conscious awareness is shifting, opening, and returning to pure state, which means everything in distortion energy, or any overlay, any inversion, has to now and is getting overridden and overwritten, like literally overwritten, WRITTEN, and also overridden, RIDDEN. And I'm spelling it out because spelling is made up too, but it has to get rewritten into divine right order. And that takes it all the way down to the base, which means the recalibration is so multifaceted and multi-layered, what's occurring, because it's been so many eons. So we're also, and I didn't mention this, we're also clearing the land of these memories, these timelines, these inversions. We're clearing those memories within our own cellular systems, our body, our brains, our functions, our tissues, of those memories within. But, within the earth, say if it was Pangea, there's layers of rock that were, pressed upon and compacted together. There's the memory within, the codes within are needing to release, you know, release to make space for the purity to arrive and anchor in. All of that needs to come clear, because we're all innately pure. So recalibration is very simply described as the rebuild, we're rebuilding, we're remodeling, and we're painting and we're redecorating all at the same time, and that's everyone, everything, everywhere that's going on within the forest systems too, and the trees, the fairies and the divas. There's, clearing, there's mudslides, there's purification. Go ahead. I know there's a lot
Thanks.
to say on that.
Thanks, Siren. And
You're
I think,
welcome.
well, what you're saying is so important, because I think that a lot of people, I mean, I'm truly blessed and very lucky in certain aspects of my life. Um, and one of them is with the awareness, and um I'm not so blessed in other areas, but some areas I'm very blessed. And so I'm very aware of I'm very empathic and feel energies very strongly. And I'm very aware at the moment that we really are seriously in a recalibration. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that, don't realize what's going on, because they're so busy trying to keep a roof over their heads and pay their bills and work the 9 to 5 and look after their families and keep their houses clean and tidy, and they're just bombarded with like the daily kind of 9 to 5 3D reality, whereas there is on a higher level, not even on a higher level, but on a 3D physical level, there is so much going on to do with recalibration and a realigning. And I've been in that energy since very much since I came, not even since I came back, but since the conference. I've been recalibrating, and that's been quite a few months now, where I've just had to take a back seat. And I was trying to push myself when I got back from the conference to do stuff, and it just was overwhelming. So I had to take a step back and take my kind of step into a more reclusive energy, where I've got time to recalibrate. And as you were talking, I was seeing an image in my mind's eye, and I often get images or messages in images, because I'm very visual. So I was seeing an image of bricks being not torn down, but taken down and reassembled and being rebuilt. And then I got the message as you were talking, that we are doing that individually in order, as starseeds, in order to um as the forerunners, in order for it to happen quicker on a collective level, because it's already happening, but in order for it to happen quicker, we're doing it as forerunners for the collective. So there's huge changes coming. Is there anything you wanted to add to that before we move on?
Well, I do agree that there's those of us that are already in certain, states of awareness, that we're being required to step into our roles as leadership and help everyone else to the extent we have the knowledge and wisdom already from other experiences, other lifetimes, to help them understand what is happening, because those things you're talking about, those 3D things, that's exactly what's coming apart. And to such an extent that there's no possibility for denial anymore, that it's still going to be a thing, right? Because it's not aligned with, I mean, on all layers, it's not aligned. Much of these structures that were even built, physically built, are on ley lines and geometries, were built in geometries that are incorrect. They're not harmonic. They're not true. So they have to come apart all the way down to the base, literal blocks, all the way to the base, so it can be rebuilt in complete right order. And for those that are more in those like 3D, want to say, mentalities or understandings, awareness, they're gonna have their whole worlds ripped apart, that they've known to be true, that is a deep attachment. And we are being required to assist the collective, and also vastly beyond, through the waves of what's coming to be implemented, by clearing our own closets and doing all of our housekeeping, clearing that out so we can step into the roles that we came to ultimately do.
There's something coming to mind that Laura said a couple of years ago on an interview with me. I can't remember if I was interviewing her or she me, but she was saying that when you she was giving an example of making a cake. So when you make a cake or bake anything, you have to go in and make and clean the kitchen out to prepare something new to eat and sustain ourselves. And that was just coming to mind. I know it's a very simple thing, but um it's and winter is coming here in Ireland. And it feels very much that is really I'm really in that energy at the moment of um kind of preparing for winter, and I think it's going to be a bad one. Um, and so, would you please speak about the three eye atlas as well?
Sure.
Let me just add that I'm kind of waiting on receiving downloads about that. From from Ashtar. I don't really have much information on it, but they have channeled previously, and I don't remember what they've said. But they did show me an image when I was in a trance, channeling them. They showed me an image of a very long, thin kind of structure. And I did see an image of that today, and that's exactly what I saw. It was like long, thin, kind of oblong shape. But other than that, I don't have any more info. Like I don't, I'm kind of sitting on the fence a bit.
Right. Well, and that's part of the multi-layered of the recalibration is that what's important in my perspective is that what is relevant to each soul would be what they're focusing on moment to moment, right? Because there's all these stories and perceptions about, oh, the spaceships are landing and all these things. And of course they are and have been, whether we're seeing it or not. But what are we focusing on our attention on? It might not be relevant to be knowing all the details right now, especially if people are calibrating, releasing, resetting, moving, shifting, letting go of jobs, relationships, etc. There's so much that needs to be prioritized of what is to be in focus, because when something is arriving, it's going to arrive, and it's going to be in a nonlinear fashion versus these predictions of it's going to arrive on this date. If it's a ship, it will arrive when it arrives at the right moment. They're not, participating in calendars that function with bank clocks and things like that. That would be silly, right? So, but ultimately, everything that's happening, including that, the energies we've been receiving, pure tone refined energies, is to assist and support the transition and also bring the presence more visibly known, presence and energetic, the technology physically here through these transitions and transformations that are that massive, and the different collective awarenesses and wisdom that come with that, with those that are within the ships, right? The different energies, the different beings that are coming, the knowledge, the wisdom, who, how, when, where they're connecting, what they're implementing, anchoring. Everything is with highest precision and divine right order. It's not like you command it to be so on Friday by 3 p.m. and then the ships, comes because there's an eclipse cycle right now, And that's kind of what we're seeing, at least from the little bit of glimpses of, the social media blurbs that come through about the 3AI atlases. People are getting a little hyped up, as they do with these different scenarios, and they're allowing their energy to be diverted and go into all these what ifs or storylines and hallways. And what happens there, and we see this with all these different other topics too. You get your energy taken somewhere, and then you create a story into a story into a story instead of allowing it to unfold, which a big portion of that is catalyzing, not just because of the frequencies, the energies, the wisdom, and that next, what's next now for our new earth implementation, because that's happening, but it's getting catalyzed to that. No, the physical presence that people have been saying, well, when am I going to see, who, how, where, and what, and when I want them to land on my rooftop, is going to happen. It's happening. And also to assist the catalyze of, like, we cannot pretend that, not that I'm pretending this, but just as a for example, we cannot pretend that we're the only ones here, right? That's silly and absurd. And the layers and waves of who's arriving when and with what information and how is happening in a certain way, very specifically and precisely as well. Because if we look at, even let's take that a step further, that there's different civilizations and different planets and systems that have beings that are not humanoid whatsoever, or might not have any kind of physical representation at all. And to layer in a way that people can come to widen the gaze, open the perception, and as they're receiving the awareness and the frequencies and the technology and the amplification through the energy, activating oneself, purifying, they can come to, in whatever way their soul is ready, to understand what's actually true and been true this whole time. So to me, I perceive it more in a general, because I know it's coming in that way specifically for certain reasons. And there will be more. I mean, there's really, if you pay attention to the sky at all, there's activity everywhere. It's just how present and how massive of the visualization. And also to remind us, like, how are we, allowing our energy to go into these different topics if it's pertinent to us, and when, so we can stay in our mission. If that's not relevant, not everyone's in the disclosure community, right? So to what layer is it relevant, and how, so that you're not expending all this energy or creating these storylines that, you know, you, it will go on, it will show as it does. Let's let it arrive, see what's next.
Yeah. It's it's a fascinating time to be here on planet Earth. Didn't we choose just a very special time to be here? And we really did choose it. As starseeds and galactic multidimensional beings, we really chose to be here. Um, and part of that deal, I think, or contract is to be part of the disclosure movement as well, because that is where we are able to get the information that we came in with to people. That's part of those events are where we can share the information that we have, and sometimes it might not correlate with others in other informations. But there are different timelines and different dimensions and different realities. So an image that the Pleiadians often show me is an image of a tree with a group of people stood around it, and everyone has a different perspective. All are true and equally important, but just different perspectives. No one's going to see the same thing. So I always like to keep an open mind and question everything, even myself and the information I get, because I could easily be wrong, but so could the other person. Um, so um, I recently had a message about Charlie Kirk, and if anyone would like to go and watch that, the message was that and it's a very short 3-minute message. It's on YouTube, Soma ARah, and the message was that he's still alive. Well, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that you have info as well.
Well, when I'm hearing anything, like any kind of news, you want to say news, or a story anywhere, the first thing I'm doing is tuning into the energy. If I feel it's necessary or relevant for me, sometimes I just tune it out. if there's no sense of necessariness for me to know. But when I heard that storyline, the first thing I felt in the energy, which I do many times when I hear like a blurb or a sentence of something, I'll feel if there's any energy in it. And if so, it'll just completely negate it in the way it'll dissolve it, where it's like, this is irrelevant for me to even discuss or look into. And for me, when I heard that, my first thought was, that's not what happened, and it didn't happen that way. And it was like this creation, if you will, a creation, but also a catalyzation in many ways. And I know there's, like you were saying, perspectives. There's so many perspectives on everything that's occurring. And I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons why that is, that it was created in that way. But and instantly it was like, no, this didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. And I actually felt parallelly, I think you and I have discussed this before, that I was in a Catholic grade school, and I felt that with a lot of the stories they would say in school, that I was like, there's no energy in that. That's not what happened. It didn't happen in that way. And I wouldn't accept it. Like it was just an instantaneous knowingness within myself, like that's not true. And the rest of it was like, well, it's not relevant for me to know the details yet, but I could feel it as a catalyst for sure. Um, as respect to what you were asking, as well as an awakening for people. Because sometimes, and I'm sure in different ways, that people that are in very much of, this experience that's a routine, when they're in a routine and a very programmed experience, that it takes something large or a multitude of large experiences to shake and one awake, right? To really waken one up to a different way of being or collapse things. And I also feel that parallelly with what you were asking about the government, which is a kind of a laughable word, but those kinds of structures are happening parallelly. All these falsities are being witnessed with such magnitude to catalyze, to awaken, to shake, and to awaken, that none of this can go on any longer. So the rest of the details of it, I didn't really feel into, like what is the real, storyline, what actually occurred. To me, that doesn't necessarily feel to be the case, because I feel like that whole, um, experience was created for a certain awareness of people that doesn't necessarily pertain to me. To find out the details, I'll find out when everyone else does, to whatever extent I will. So,
And that's also something that um I was getting as well, because although the message that I got about Charlie Kirk was um because Charlie Kirk was a really important figure, and although the message was about him and and I know that he was a really important figure, but I didn't like, my job was to relay the message. And now that I've done that, I'm not interested in really in knowing anything else. Like I've done my job, I've relayed the message, and that's really my main mission, is just to relay the messages that I get. I'm not interested in, maybe it sounds a bit arrogant, but I'm not interested in people's opinion. I'm just here to relay the messages, and it doesn't matter what people think. That's not to say that I couldn't be wrong, that they're um yeah, but I'm so I'm just doing my mission, really, relaying the messages. Um So, welcome back, everyone. We took a short interval then, and Siren is going to do some galactic work. I'm so excited.
excuse me. Thank you. I'm excited as well. I know there's a lot of transitions and transformations that we're going through right now. So I feel like it would be very beneficial to offer a sound and frequency immersion of sorts that assists with number one, opening, because we need to definitely open our minds, our perceptions, widen the gaze, because what will be, what's coming is so vast that the mind really, in my perception, of course, cannot comprehend the magnitude. So it'll be an opener, some clearing for the residuals, the purification waves we're all going on or have going on within ourselves and our experiences, as well as an assistant to reset, center, and recenter, harmonize, and also calibrate, because those are all waves of things we're going through these massive transitions, and this is really a beginning base point, as I feel, of what's to come and what we're getting ready for, especially as these different, friendships and alliances are arriving too. It's getting us ready for the next stage and the next waves of evolution. So, with that, I'm going to change my sound settings so you can hear me better. Okay. We'll begin with some deep breaths to open the body, to open the field, to receive. There's no prerequisite. There's nothing special you need to do other than be open to allow yourselves to receive. You can be sitting, you can be lying down. Just take some deep breaths. Open. Open wider. And we can do that too on our own, is take nice, deep, heart-centered breaths to reset and recenter. I know that many times when things are uncertain, we tend to contract our energy, right? Contract our field, and we can breathe into our heart. And expand our field so we don't contract into the unknown. Opens to allow for space, for release, for movement. For calm, gentle grace through the space of our breath. Allow, release, quiet the mind, open the heart. It's very essential we clear out our sensors, so to speak. Our sensors, what we're absorbing, so we can tune in to our intuitive senses, specifically through these major changes, so we can maintain neutrality, centeredness, harmonization. And even if, something happens that startles our energy, or is a little, off-putting per se, we can recalibrate that as we're refining, recalibrating. Keep raising our awareness so we witness these things right away. We can see what that is. Reset, 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 refine. Find ways to ground differently. New reality, grounding differently than what ever has been known. Find the inner tone of your frequency where you can utilize your tone to assist your body to shift out of your breath, right? To shift out of something that you're releasing. Come to the breath. Come to some bass, bass tones to harmonize your field, to reharmonize your experience. Tone it out. We all know how to do this innately. Retune, refine through the tone. We all have a harmonic resonant chamber right here. Our vessel, our sacred chamber, if you will, our vessel, so we can tune. Remember, we can tune our ship, our light ship, to raise the frequency. Tune into our energy specifically, precisely. And as we do that, feel the energy. We can continuously transform. And we might even, or already, we might even perceive colors and the shapes and the waves and the geometry through the tone. But the more we tune in to our tone, we can feel that vibration of toning, right? We can feel that, right? How that's changing our cells and the water within our body and our organs and our nervous system and our systems, our endocrine. It's opening up. The throat goes vastly beyond the throat, right? It goes in and through, down to the feet. It's opening up all of our inner vortexes through sound and our own galactic tones that are codes, which we all have. Galactic encoded beingnesses within our DNA, and we're opening and we're activating that through these layers of excavation and through clearing and through fine-tuning and recalibration. So I invite everyone to feel in the geometries of your breath. Feel into the codes within your breath, right? Everything is layered, so everything has the potentiality to anchor, illuminate, transform, shift, alchemize, change, accelerate through the pillar. So explore through, say, meditation, or a non-mundane moment, which would be anywhere, at any time, in the grocery store. Hum, tone, transform, feel. What does that feel like? How is that lifting? How is that opening? How is that opening your field, your range of perception? All these perceptibilities are changing, and so are we. So I invite you to explore how you can transform your own experiences through sound in the non-mundane, which is all moments. Because there's going to be, I know we talked about a couple categories, or a couple topics, and there's going to be many things that rise and surface to be seen, to be neutralized, to be dissolved and cleared. And it's important to find that space right here where we are, to find the spaces between ourselves where we can center and harmonize. And we can really do that through sound and frequency. And just as an aside, that's actually how I learned as a young child, like very small infant, in the density was I was toning. I was humming, I was toning. I wouldn't call it that at the time, but I was creating sound before I had words, and I could feel that was changing my surroundings. And so that was my beginning base point of exploring through sound, where I would see geometries and colors. I would make a tone, and it was actually helping me learn how to be in this earth in the density, but it was also showing me that part of my, many parts, layers of my mission is to show, reflect, and remind people that they all can do that. They can all transform energy, and through feeling what that energy is doing, how it's, vibrating or shifting or opening, so you feel a stagnancy somewhere, you can tune and retune and refine and recalibrate your own self. So,
And what's coming to me is that you really, you're an activator. You activate people to connect to the galactics, and you do it through sound. Um, please, and thank you so much for doing that. Please, will you share how people can find you and get connect with you, and get also personal sessions with you?
sure, absolutely. Well, I have a main website, but I also, you can find all of the other links through the main website. Because the main website will have the YouTube channel, which has a lot of frequency meditations, but the website itself has 1 hour downloads, a lot of 1 hour meditation activation downloads that are really popular because they're whole hour sessions. But you can also book sessions through that, which would be a one-on-one. You can do one-on-one remotely, where, say, you are anywhere in the world, would be the same experience as if you were in person. But if you want to come in person, I'm in Arizona, so you could also book in person if you like. There are some group sessions that I have coming up that are here in Arizona at the studio. So if you're interested in that, on the website, you'll find as well, which I'll give the whole website name in a second. But on the website, you'll find a calendar page, which will share with you events that are local events. They're online, there's Zoom group sessions. You can do 1 hour, one-on-one sessions that are unique to and for you, as well as other, like activating your telepathy, which is a weekly session that helps through frequency open your telepathic awareness, which we all have the, innate remembrance of. But activating and opening and clearing, we can tone and tune into our own telepathic knowingness. And so that's every Tuesday. But if you go to the main website, is innergalacticenergyhealing.com. It's INNER instead of intergalactic. It's inner for, going within. So it's innergalacticenergyhealing.com. You'll find the Facebook on there, the YouTube. There's a calendar page with different states that I'll be doing group activations for audiences in New York, Los Angeles, Maryland, um, California. There's another one in California. It's not Los Angeles. I can't remember the city name offhand, but you'll find all of that there on the calendar page, as well as to schedule online a remote session or in person. And you'll be able to also see the local event, which is actually for 11/11, which is, we know there's many portals that have a more accelerated potentiality for evolution. And so I'm having a group session here in Arizona, which is just south of Sedona. Most people are mostly familiar with that as a vicinity, about just south of there. And what it is to activate dormancies, to awaken galactic DNA, to really open oneself to their next expanse for their mission. So that's the intentions for that, and that's through sound and frequency. It's on I keep wanting to say 9/10, but it's on 11 because of the linear nature of the dates. It's on 11/9, so just before the portal. So you can find that there as well. So yeah, that's
And you've got your book as well.
oh, yes, thank you for, yeah, reminding me. I have actually 6 books out that are activation books. And many times what they're doing in the books, which is a multitude of things through the activations of light code, light language, art, geometry, there's geometric templates, there's blueprints, there's different themes for each book of the 6. Depending on the person, they've activated their dormant languages, their ancient galactic languages, or, open to automatic writing, drawing, remembrances from other lifetimes, or people have had visions where through the art they've seen that in near-death experience, you know, something that's very geometric, and then something connects that is a remembrance from, you know, another time, another timeline. So there's a multitude of potentials with the 6 books that are out, but I just finished the 7th book that actually is, you'll be the first person I'm sharing this with. It's a series of, and it's interesting because it's the 7th book, but it's a series of 7. There's 7 sections with 7 codes, very specifically tuned and intentioned, and then the final subsection is 13 codes, and there's significance there between the 7, and all the sevens, and then all, you know, the 13. But when we add up all of the codes that are within the book, it equals 56, which is actually 11. So then we go into the 22, and then we get to the builder, which is about building with light, is the main theme through the purity and return of the 7. We're building now, we're reconstructing everything through the recalibration with light, because we're building with, you know, the light codes, light structures. So it's going to be really powerful, and I'm going to publish it probably this week. It's getting formatted right now, so you can find, oh yeah, you know, you can find that there as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. The Amazon author page, where you can read about each book, find out the details, and then you can purchase them as a Kindle, which is, you know, the electronic book, or in a paperback. So that's on the site as well. You can find all of that there.
Wow, you're doing such great work.
Thank
And
you.
I highly recommend that people go and buy your book immediately. I really feel that the codes in the book are activations, and that will really help people to activate into their next step, their next phase, their next their next, you know.
Right.
Sorry,
Oh, that's okay. Well, a lot of what's happening right now in these expansions, a lot of the upgrades we're receiving are through the light and the light codes, right? And what's going on with that is that the mind is completely out of the picture in the comprehension of what's going on with the upgrades or the geometrics, because it's so much more complex than sacred geometry. Light codes, you know, one code has so much information, which is technology, and it has instructions. So there's a function in one code magnified by layers, you know, say layers or lines of code that bypass the mind completely, where you can look at them, you know, say look at them or hold them. Or there's one person that was put the book under their pillow when they were sleeping, and they were having these dreams. You know, it's so bypasses the mind how you would utilize it, what you would receive of the non-comprehensible next now. You know, all these multidimensionalities that are required to come into cohesion and embodiment, alignment, are non-defined, and
mm,
which can all be found and experienced and implemented, anchored in through frequencies, which is why one of my favorite reasons why, not that I need to pick a favorite, but one of my favorite reasons why I love to sing is that it completely bypasses the, well, what is that song about, you know, or what it, because you'll feel it, you'll know it, your soul will experience it, you'll receive whatever parts and components and codes that you need moment to moment, just like the books. You don't always need to know the why, right? So,
thank that's true. Thank you, Siren. And I'm understanding that more and more, because I do have a very questioning mind, but I think sometimes we don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be questioning stuff so much. Like, we just need to be in the energy, you know, especially when we're getting an activation or in a healing session. If it's someone that is that we trust. I think there are always exceptions, of course, because sometimes things do go wrong. And I've heard of some and over the years, I've heard of a couple of stories where it didn't go that well. And recently with a friend as well, Julia. Some of you will know her from my group. But anyway, but I highly recommend Siren. Um,
Thank you.
so thank you so much, and I shall see you soon. I'm gonna have to go, but I love you,
I
and I
love
shall
you
see you soon.
too. I
Thank
love you
you.
too. You're so welcome. It was so wonderful to be with you today and all of your audience. Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.